Hello friends, myself Professor Prakash Jakatdar. I have been coaching for IIT entrance examination for last 40 years. But this lecture series that I am starting from today onwards is slightly informal. I am going to cover the entire syllabus of 11th, 12th, JEE Main and JEE Advanced. But before I do that, I always find that there are certain fundamental concepts in algebra, in calculus, in coordinate geometry, in linear algebra, in all the fields that you're going to study. There are certain basic confusions about the motive or how these subjects have evolved. So I want to clarify certain things today, and I'll be starting with the most important branch of mathematics that any engineering student ought to learn first, and that branch is called calculus. So let us talk about calculus. What is calculus? Calculus means study of change. Anything that changes, calculus deals with it. Study of change means what? In all around us, there are changes happening. Temperature increases, then the rainfall increases, then prices increase. There are several things which are changing in our life. And in order to study the nature of change, some things change very fast, some things change very slowly, some go down, some go up, and everything, like for example, velocity is changing, changing the distance, okay? So there are several examples from social sciences, from physics, from chemistry, from mathematics, even from biology. Everywhere you find that there are changes and changes and changes. So it becomes an imperative need of mathematics that I must create a science of change. In order to study the change, this calculus was invented. Now, why and how this calculus got invented? I always feel, as far as students are concerned, whenever I'm going to retire, I've already retired actually, but I'm going to write a book on the student suffering, and the student suffering, this history of student suffering will be divided into two parts. One is pre-Newtonian era and after Newtonian era. When Newton was not there, everything was cozy and top center, everything was very cozy. And people never used to ask stupid questions like why apples fall down. They knew why apples fall down. Apples fall down because we want to eat them. Or imagine there is a question in the question paper that why apples fall down. Newton is no more on the scene. Students' answer would be, apples do not fall down. They are just traveling. Earth comes in between. And he would have got full marks for that. But nowadays, if somebody asks me why apples fall down, very conveniently I say, you don't know. They travel because of gravitation. Now, do I understand gravitation? Not at all. Why? Because I don't understand the basic meaning of calculus itself. And Newton was the person who invented it. And that is why Newton is the basic and the first one and the most fundamental creator of this science called calculus. But it will be very surprising for you if I tell you that origin of calculus lies in India. So what is Indian connection with calculus? Remember one thing, India has contributed to the world the discovery of zero. Let me tell you one thing, that discovery of zero, if had it not been discovered at that time, entire technology, entire science, entire progress that civilization has done in last 300 or 400 years would have been reduced to zero. Had it not been for zero. Why zero is so important? India invented zero, and as usual, India creates new things, but every new thing that India creates is always associated with problem. Why? Because if you look at the set of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, all natural numbers or all real numbers you take, zero has a very special position. If I want to write numbers, suppose I write minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, but zero cannot be written along with them. It has to occupy a very special position, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Now, why 0 is a hero? 0 is a hero because it reduces every number to 0 once it contacts with them. For example, the rules of multiplication law extremely partial about 0. Why? 0 multiplied by anything gives you what? 0. No, this power no other number can enjoy. He is like Amitabh Bachchan. All the villains are reduced to 0 whenever he is present. So, he is Amitabh Bachchan among the set of numbers. Don't you agree? I think you must. And 0 is invention of India. So, students, whenever you score 0 marks in any examination, go home and proudly say, I am proud of Indian heritage, and that is why I have rediscovered 0 in my marks. So, you should be proud that 0 has been invented. But as I said, every Indian discovery is always associated with problems. And we always create problems and expect the entire world to solve them. For example, we go to United Nations and tell them, we are too many, solve our problem. So we have created 0. Now it must have created certain problems. Now what problems 0 has created? Let us go into the this problem that 0 has created itself. Okay. So now 0, I remember the history of 0 in my mind started with one simple innocent question from a child. This child had a sister who was studying in 3rd standard, whereas this child was studying only in the 1st standard. Now, these children, they are not interested in the books which are given to them. They are always interested in the books which are given to his sister. So he looked at the book at his sister and he was surprised to see certain things and he couldn't understand. So he came to me, Daddy, you are a mathematics professor, tell me, what is this? I said, what is this? He said, I saw 6, I saw 6 and there was a line written below that, and below that it was written 3. What the hell is this? 6 line 3. I don't understand. I told him this is called division, my dear fellow. You have not come across division as yet. You must have learned addition and subtraction. But division is a long way for you to go. No. Nothing doing. You must tell me what is division. Then I asked him, are you familiar with multiplication? He says, yes, I know multiplication. Good. Now, suppose 6, it is read like this. 6 upon, this line is read as upon, 6 upon 3. Now, what is 6 upon 3? Then, in order to make him understand in his own understandable language, I said, 6 upon 3 is that number which when multiplied by 3 gives me 6. Now, for a child of 1st standard, it was a slightly difficult thing to understand. He asked me to repeat it again. I said, yes, 6 upon 3 is, you are searching for that number which when multiplied by 3 gives you 6. Then he started telling me, shall I take the table of 3? Yes. Go on till you come across 6. So 3 ones are 3, 3 twos are 6. Very clever. So what is the answer? 2. Yes. So 6 upon 3 is 2. My reputation as a mathematics professor was intact. I was very triumphant. So I started generalizing. I told him, then what is A upon B? A upon B is that number which when multiplied by B gives you A. So that was my definition. So what is A upon B? Is the number which if multiplied by B gives you A. I did not know that this child is going to put me in a lot of difficulties. Next day, he asked me, sir, Daddy, do you know what is 2 upon 0 then? And he applied my own definition. 2 upon 0 is that number which when multiplied by 0 gives you 2. He applied my own definition to this particular operation. 2 upon 0 is that number which when multiplied by 0 gives you 2. That was impossible because 0 has special powers. 0 is not like any other number. I told you, 0 is a hero. He reduces everything to 0. So if there exists such a number called 2 upon 0, let us say if it is x, then x into 0 will be 2. And that is impossible because that such thing does not happen. So that means 0 has created a lot of problems. And you cannot define 2 upon 0 at all. It is undefined. This operation is undefined because only simple reason, it has no answer. Any answer if you write here, which will create a contradiction. Because whatever answer you write here, that multiplied by 0 gives you 0 and 0 is equal to 2, not possible. Okay. So this question has no answer, but I couldn't tell my child that it is not possible. So I just told him, like every parent tell, जब तू बड़ा हो जाएगा ना, तब तेरे को समझ में आएगा, अभी मत बोल. लेकिन however tall or however he grows higher and higher, I can never give him an answer. The entire mathematics is at all incapable of answering this question. Okay, so there is no answer to this question. So any number, divided by 0, no answer. Correct? Now that is one problem which 0 has created. Second problem is, suppose he had asked me a question, what is 0 upon 0, daddy? I would have bluffed him. Bluffed him in the sense, I would have told him, अरे answer तो कुछ भी हो सकता है. जैसे 10, for example, answer is 10. Why? Because 10 multiplied by 0 gives you 0. So 0 upon 0 is that number which when multiplied by 0 gives me 0. So 10 into 0 is 0 or not? Yes. So 10 is the answer. Child was very clever. He said in that case 100 is also an answer. Okay. So he will say 0 upon 0 is 100. Correct. Now 100 is equal to 10. How is it possible? Because 100 is equal to 0 by 0. 0 by 0 is equal to 10. So now I can prove anything is equal to anything. Right. So this problem is also not solvable at all in mathematics. This is not solvable. Why? Because it has too many answers. Too many answers. In fact, any number is an answer. So this problem has too many answers and this problem has no answer. Both the operations are not acceptable in the world of mathematics. And this was a problem, very, very long-standing problem. But you will ask me, sir, why solve these problems? Where do you come across these problems? First of all, we never come across this problem. Of course, we come across that universal things and all that. How to deal with that is a different matter. But this problem is very intimate to our life. Our life is dependent on solving this problem 0 upon 0. It's a real life problem. Now, in which situation you come across 0 by 0? Let me explain. Now, let us take a simple case. A man is driving a car. He starts his journey from Bombay, arrives at Pune. The entire journey takes around 4 hours. And the total distance, let us say for the sake of convenience, is 200 kilometers. So the total distance between Bombay to Pune, assuming that it is 200 kilometers, and suppose he has taken 4 hours for completing this journey. So he starts at 8 o'clock and reaches at 12 o'clock, right? So this journey is that of 4 hours. So if you ask me what is his speed, then it's very simple for you. Speed का definition ये है, the distance traveled divided by time interval, right? So distance traveled is 200 kilometers and the time taken is 4. So his speed is what? 50. But remember one thing, whenever he is trying to drive the car and suppose he has reached Lonavala or before the Lonavala Ghat he starts climbing, will his speed will be 50? No. His speed is not constant at all. This speed does not tell us anything about the actual speed of the car at any point of time. For example, between 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, if you are interested, sir, tell me what is the speed of the car exactly at 9 o'clock? Now, exactly at 9 o'clock, was there a speed for the car? Yes, the speedometer was indicating that there was a speed. But at 9 o'clock, time does not pass. 9 o'clock is a cross-section of the entire journey. It's a still photograph, right? And at 9 o'clock, no time will pass. So what time interval is there at 9 o'clock? Even if we say 9 o'clock and 9 o'clock 1 minute, then there is an interval of 1 minute. Even if we say 9 o'clock and 1 second, there is an interval of 1 second. But at 9 o'clock, time doesn't pass. That means how much time has passed at 9 o'clock? 0. So time interval is 0. And how much distance he will travel at 9 o'clock? 0. So at 9 o'clock, I cannot find his speed at all by using my normal definition of speed. Distance traveled divided by time. Here time doesn't fly, neither the distance is traveled, but still the car had the speed because the speedometer is indicating it. And my mathematics is incapable of answering this question. Don't you think this requires answer? Yes, everybody agrees. And the person who gave us the answer was no less than Mr. Isaac Newton, greatest villain in the life of all children. Without Newton, we would have been very happy. But no, he has got a habit of poking his nose in everything related to science. So one of the things that he created was the solution to the question of 0 by 0. Now, how he arrived at the solution of 0 by 0, that is the most important part of my lectures today. Okay? And that will be the introduction to the science of what? Calculus. Calculus means, again I'm telling you, is a study of change. There are two variables most of the times, x and y. For example, when you start heating water, then its temperature rises. So temperature becomes the dependent variable, whereas the heat supplied becomes independent variable. So you want to find out how much heat is supplied when I want to make the temperature 100 degrees. So there are two variables. One is time and the other is the temperature, or one variable is heat and other is the temperature. So they are related to each other. So H depends on T, or heat depends on the amount of heat applied. Okay. So these are the functions. There are functional relation between two quantities we know. When we start running, it's a function of time. How much distance we travel in how much time. So distance traveled is a function of time, right? So there are always two variables, x and y. We generally denote them. Y is called dependent variable, whereas x is called independent variable. That means we are allowing x to vary, take any number, and according to the relation, y will take certain numbers. Okay? So that is called change. So when x is changing, y must change, maybe positive or negative, that I don't know. If x is increasing, y may increase. If x is increasing, y may decrease. Sometimes x and y will increase in the same way or whatever. But there is some relation between x and y. And I am also interested in finding out if y is changing, then at what speed it is changing. At what speed? Whenever two guys are running, suppose even if I start my story like this, there were two guys, A and B, both of them were running. What question comes in your mind? Who was running faster, right? So who was running faster is a natural question. This question cannot be answered without applying calculus, because you are asking me at what speed one is running. And in order to arrive at the answer, I use calculus, and there we come across the same problem of what? Division of 0 by 0. Because I already explained it to you why it is like that. Okay. So now, let us find out what kind of solution this fellow has given us. What he says is very simple. He says, of course, at 9 o'clock, let us assume that he has traveled, say, 50 kilometers at 9. Kilometers. Okay. Now, let us ask one more question. What was the distance traveled at 9 o'clock and 10 minutes? 9 o'clock and 10 minutes. Maybe the distance in 10 minutes it will be something like 52 kilometers. Whatever. I'm just taking a random figure. Okay. So now, the average speed between 9 o'clock and 10 minutes. So average speed in 10 minutes is just what? 2 kilometers divided by 10 minutes means what? 10 minutes divided by 60. That will be 1/6. So that will be around 12. Okay. So 12 kilometers per minute was the speed. So per hour was the speed. Correct? But then I'm not happy. What is the guarantee that in 10 minutes he was traveling in the same uniform speed? No. In the meanwhile, he might have applied brakes and all that. I don't know. So I'm not happy with this answer. So what will you do? So 2 kilometers traveled in, let us say, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 10 minutes means 10 upon 60, that is 1/6 of hour. Okay. So if I divide 2 by 1 upon 6, then it comes out to be what? 12 kilometers. But this 10 kilometers is not the speed at 9 o'clock. It was between 9 o'clock and 9 and 10. That is also not the correct answer, because in 10 minutes there is likelihood that he might have changed the speed. Okay. So I'll reduce my interval from 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. The difference is only 5 minutes. So suppose he has traveled, let us say 1.5 kilometers. Then I'll divide by what? There's 5 minutes. 5 minutes means 5 upon 16, all that I will do. So I'll arrive at some answer. But you will not agree. You will say, क्या फायदा है? इसमें तो 5 मिनट के अंदर कुछ भी हो सकता है. You are talking about car here, but there is an electron particle suppose going for 5 minutes. The speed will be huge and the changes will be very huge. 5 minutes is a big interval. So I'll reduce it to 1 minute. I'll get some answer. Then I'll reduce it to half a minute. I'll get some answer. Then I'll reduce it to 1/3 minute. Then I'll get some answer. Then I'll reduce it to 1 second. I will still get some answer. And then I'll reduce it to half a second. I'll still get an answer. And all these answers will be seemingly approaching one particular number. And that number is the answer that I'm looking for. And that number is called limit. And that is the basic concept, and that is an answer to what? 0 by 0. I'll give you an example. Suppose there is a function called x minus 1, x square minus 1 upon x minus 1. Correct? This is a function. Now this function, I can calculate its values at every point except at 1. At 1, if I put 1 here, if I put x is equal to 1, there is a bomb explosion. And that bomb is what? X is equal to 1, so 1 square minus 1 divided by 1 minus 1, that will be again 0 by 0. So this function has no value at 1. So at 1, f has no value. And I want to find a value at 1 somehow, which will go very close to 1. Okay. So what am I going to do? I will plot here x, and I will plot here fx. Now x, I want to take values which are very near to 1. So either higher than 1 or lower than 1. That makes no difference. So suppose I take x is equal to 1.1. X is equal to 1.1. What is the value of fx? It is 1.1 square minus 1. Now, divided by what? 1.1 minus 1. What will it reduce to? If you are familiar with a square minus b square formula, you are clever enough to understand that 1.1 minus 1 multiplied by 1.1 plus 1. Okay. And if you divide it by 1.1 minus 1, this gets cancelled. Answer turns out to be what? 2.1. Correct? But 1.1 is 0.1 extra. Right? I want to be very close to 1. So I will go even nearer to 1 by writing what? By writing 1.01. 1.01. Now same calculation will tell you that then the answer will become what? 2.01. Correct? So if I put 1.01, then the answer is going to be 2.01. If I put 1.001, my answer is going to be 2.001. In other words, these numbers are going towards one particular number because the next number is going to be 2.0001. The next number is going to be 2.00001. So these numbers are approaching. These numbers are seemingly approaching one particular number, and that number is nothing but 2. So I am satisfied that when this operation 0 by 0 is there, because I cannot find a value of 1, but I can find out approximate value of 1, and going by that approximation I can predict that this is the value that it must take at x is equal to 1, and that is denoted by a symbol which we call limit. Limit as x approaches 1. This approach is indicated by this horizontal arrow, and we are saying limit of this number, this expression, as x tends to 1 is nothing but 2. Correct? So this is not the actual value at 1. Actual value at 1 is 0 by 0. It doesn't exist. But this is a predicted value. So we are predicting that the function is approaching a number called 2. Therefore, it is called predicted value. So predicted value is called limit. You must understand, actual value and predicted value are two different concepts. Sometimes actual value exists. For example, if I take this function x plus 1, suppose I take a function called x plus 1 and I take limit as x tends to 1, then what will happen? When x is 1.1, this will be 1.1 plus 1, 2.1. So if x is 1.1, this will be 2.1. This will be 2.1. Now, when x is 1.1, this will be 2.01. Like that. So in the same way, this number is approaching what? 2. But at 1, also it has got a value, that is also 2. So in this case, the predicted value and actual value matches. Okay. So sometimes the predicted value matches with actual value. Sometimes prediction has nothing to do with actual value. Actual value may not exist, but limit always exists. Okay. What are the conditions for limit to exist and how it is calculated in various situations? That's a part of our main lectures, which will be dealing with the syllabus. Okay. So this is just an introduction for limits and continuity. Okay. Fine. Thank you.